The LG 5K 2K 40-inch UltraFine monitor is an incredibly immersive experience for work and gaming. This is the first UltraWide to feature Thunderbolt 5, and it's been amazing for managing massive timelines, complex plugin windows, and for general productivity work. After testing it for a while, there's some things I really like about it and a couple of things that may or may not be a deal breaker for you if you're interested in buying one. So in this video, we're going to talk about everything I like with the monitor, as well as a couple quirks I noticed with it as well. Before we go any further, I do want to say thank you to B&H for loaning me the LG 40U990A to review. They've got no input in this content, and unfortunately I do have to send it back whenever I'm done testing it. This is the world's first 5K 2K monitor that features Thunderbolt 5, which the main reason you want Thunderbolt 5 is because it handles all the way up to 80 gigabits a second of data, and it has an extra 40 gigabits of video that's going to be reserved just for video. So this is going to allow you to daisy chain more peripherals than ever before. And this is faster than the older 72 hertz standard for 5K displays with a fluid 120 hertz refresh rate. I found this was really enjoyable for browsing the web, as well as just for day-to-day productivity tasks, moving the cursor around. Everything just felt super smooth. It also has Nano IPS black technology with a 2000:1 contrast ratio versus the standard 1000:1 on most IPS screens. I found the color accuracy on this was pretty good as well. There's a ton of different color profiles that come stock with the monitor. I ended up having to change it a little bit, and I ended up shifting the greens down a little bit because to me, most LG monitors have a little bit of a green tint right out of the box. One of my favorite things about the monitor is the Thunderbolt 5 connectivity because you can power your computer, send video signal, and access so many more ports with just one cable plugged into your computer. This can provide up to 96 watts of power to your laptop, and it has things like an Ethernet port on the back, as well as the ability to daisy chain other Thunderbolt peripherals or more monitors, all by using just one port on your computer. I'm not sure why it tops out at 96 watts of power though, when Thunderbolt 5 can support more, and a lot of laptops today really like 140 watts of power. So I do think it would have been nicer if they could have beefed up the power output going to your laptop through the Thunderbolt 5 cable. Let's talk about the resolution. It's a 5K 2K display, which means it has 5120 by 2160 pixels, which is essentially a 4K monitor with 33% more horizontal room. So that gives you a little bit more space for things like a timeline on Final Cut Pro, or it can also be big enough that you don't need to have a second monitor. I really like using the macOS tiling shortcuts to put windows on one half of the screen, either on the left side or the right side, and to not have a bezel in between them. Also, the pixel density on the display is about 140 ppi, which is going to be very similar to a 32-inch 4K monitor. So it's the same sharpness, you just get more width than you would with a 32-inch display. The height on this display, though, is going to be a little bit closer to a standard 27-inch monitor than a 32-inch display, though. If you compare it to a 27-inch 5K display like the Apple Studio display, those typically are about 218 ppi. So that's going to be a little bit more pixel dense than this. But to me, I didn't really notice any issues with sharpness on the LG 40-inch display. For my use, I was using it at the 2560 by 1080 setting, and I didn't notice any issues with macOS performance or with the scaling not looking quite right. So there's tons of different resolutions that you can select through on the macOS if you need to change the size of the font. When I first got this in the mail, I was really surprised at how big the box is, but once I actually set the monitor up, I realized a 40-inch ultra-wide display is a lot of screen real estate, but you can still use it up pretty quick. It's not going to be on the same level as a desk-dominating 49-inch monitor. It feels a little bit closer to a stretched 32-inch monitor. I also really enjoyed this for video editing and photo editing, but I find that the ultra-wide display is really nice if you're doing audio production as well as video production, because you're able to keep your tracks or your video timelines across a very wide screen and still have plenty of other effects browsers and media browsers open above them. So the 5K 2K is really great for productivity work, as well as for photo and video editing and for audio production too. As far as the actual build quality of it, it does have a nice stand in the box. You can also always use it with VESA if you'd like, but I don't really like the actual aesthetic of the display because it's got white plastic border around the edge, and I think this would look a lot more seamless if they just went with black all the way around. This is something that LG seems to do with a lot of displays for some reason. There's a couple of other really great features with the monitor, like there's tons of ports on the back. You got HDMI ports, display ports, a couple USB ports, as well as an Ethernet port on the monitor as well. So you can essentially use this monitor as a docking station. There's also the Thunderbolt in port, and there's even a daisy chain Thunderbolt out port, so you can keep extra peripherals plugged into it as well. A couple other tech specs. This is a curved display, which takes a little bit of getting used to, but it honestly feels really immersive to use. It has a matte finish on the screen itself, which some people are really not going to like. At first, I was afraid I wasn't going to like the matte finish, but after using the LG 6K 32-inch monitor and testing some other matte finishes, I found that this one is just as good as any of the others, and it does a great job at cutting down on glare, and I didn't have any issues with feeling like text was readable or with eye strain even using it all day long. This monitor also has a built-in power supply, which is different than most of the LG monitors, and some people did notice some Coil Whine with it, but there's actually a software update that you should put on as soon as you get this. You need to install the LG Switch software, which is a little bit clunky. We'll talk more about that software in a minute. Personally, I didn't notice any Coil Whine after the software update. To me, the main reason you get an ultra-wide display is if you want to have a really immersive setup where you can move windows around without having a physical gap in between them. So I really like to have all the clips off to the side of the media browser when I'm editing with Final Cut Pro, and that's where I really like having the dual monitor setup, so all my clips can be on the left monitor and I can insert them into the timeline on the right monitor. But it's kind of nice to just have them all in one window within one display where you don't have to jump over the bezel, and it just makes your workflow feel a little bit tighter together. One thing I did notice though is I wasn't able to configure Final Cut to have the clip browser go quite as low as I would like without impeding into the timeline space. So depending on the software that you're using, the ultra-wide monitor may or may not be a good option for you. There's always software you can put on your Mac if you really want to have a vertical zone designated on the left side of the screen and then have a standard 16:9 area on the right side. The 21:9 aspect ratio works really well for software, but whenever you're watching 16:9 content on it, you will get black bars. So depending on the applications and games you're using, this display resolution may be a little bit annoying for you. Macs have historically not handled display scaling very well, but I didn't find any issues even running it at 2560 by 1080. There was no performance bottlenecking, and everything was still looking really smooth and clear. You can always go through the list of all the different resolutions on it to find one that suits your use case, so depending on how far you're sitting from the screen and how big you need the text to be. Next, let's talk about the ports on the back of it. So there's tons of ports. You've got Thunderbolt 5, HDMI 2.1, as well as DisplayPort, an Ethernet jack, as well as several USB ports on the back. There's also an additional 2 USB-A ports and a USB-C port underneath the monitor over by the joystick. Another standout feature of this monitor to me is the stand, because it is able to go so low to your desk. Unlike some other stands I've seen where there's still a couple inches of height that have to be on it. So LG did a great job with the stand for this. It's very easy to tilt it as well. And if you don't want to use the stand, you can always use the VESA slots on the back and use your own monitor arm. Another thing I love about this monitor is the 120 Hz refresh rate. And I've always said 60 Hz is fine, but there is something about the 120 that feels very smooth and fluid, even just for productivity work. It's really not just for gaming. And I also love that this monitor has variable refresh rate. So it supports all the way from 48 Hz up to 120 Hz. So it's nice if it doesn't need the faster speed, it can slow it down as well. One of the areas where I wasn't completely happy was with the color accuracy out of the box. And I found pretty much any LG monitor, I do have to do some tweaking with the greens and magentas to get it tweaked a little bit to my liking and where it feels like the macOS displays. Technically, you are going to need to calibrate this monitor if you want the full DCI-P3 color accuracy, but you can always just do it by eye and get something that feels pretty close to you. I would really recommend calibrating this though if you need it for absolute color accuracy. LG does have a ton of different modes that are available on the monitor, and you can use the joystick under it to access them, and it does support DCI-P3 99% accuracy. Just make sure you change your macOS settings to be sending DCI-P3 out from the display cable. This does support software control through the LG Switch application, but it was kind of limited for me. I've had times where the LG Switch works fine and I'm able to adjust the color, the brightness, the sound of the monitor, but there's other times where this doesn't want to work and I have to resort to using the joystick. So that's definitely an annoying thing with this monitor, that it doesn't have full macOS integration. The LG 40U990A does retail for about $1,800, and unfortunately you only get a 1-year warranty on this, which I think is pretty skimpy for a display of this quality and the price. With this monitor, I feel like you're really paying to get all the ports on it, the immersive experience, as well as the Thunderbolt 5 connection to give you plenty of bandwidth out of it. I think this is definitely a high price to pay for the monitor, but the immersive feel and the high resolution that it has to offer definitely feels like it's worth the price. So to tie it all together, I really like this monitor. It looks nice. I just wish they would have gone with white around the edges, and I wish that LG could step up their game a little bit with the color quality that you're going to get straight out of the box. But there's tons of features packed into this, lots of ports, It looks really nice. It's a great monitor and it has the 120 hertz refresh rate. The Thunderbolt 5 performance on it is just flawless as well. And you can always plug gaming devices or other things in with HDMI or DisplayPort if you need to as well. So this monitor is sharp. It looks really nice on your desk and it's very enjoyable to use. Just know that the ultra-wide experience is a little bit of an acquired taste. If you're interested in buying this, be sure to check it out at B&H. I'll have links to buy in the description below. If you got any other questions, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear them. Like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any upcoming content.